Hey guys and gals, in this video I'm going to show you how to create an animated GIF using frame-by-frame animation in Photoshop. So let's get started. Now I've already created a document that's 728 by 90 pixels, and I've already designed the creative, and that's important. You want to design the creative first before you try to animate anything. So if you look in my layers panel, you can see that I've already designated 3 frames and a call to action button. So I want to start with frame 1, then I want it to cycle to frame 2, then I want to cycle to frame 3. And I'll back out here and show you that this is what I want on frame 1, this is what I want on frame 2, and this is what I want on frame 3. And the call to action group is a button that I want to remain across the entire animation. So let's start with frame one, and then I'll go to the window menu, and all the way down at the bottom, you'll see the timeline panel. So I'll go ahead and select that. Now when it comes up, there are 2 options for creating animation in Photoshop. You'll see the frame animation, and you'll also see the video timeline. So for this particular video, we're going to do frame animation. So I'll go ahead and select that. Now it's important to select it from the drop down and then click on it again so that you actually see the frames appear here to the left. So I'll click on it, and now you can see, look at that, you have the first frame show up in the timeline panel. And now it's a matter of adding frames and then hiding and revealing what you want to show up in your layers panel. So for instance, this is frame 1, and I have frame 1 group of layers, which I've already designed, which is text and image in a group, and I have the visibility on. Then I say to myself, what do I want to happen next? So I'm just going to click on this button here, which is going to duplicate frame 1, and now I've got a second frame. Then I go to my layers panel, say what do I want to happen in frame 2? Well, I'm going to hide frame 1 group of layers, and then I'm going to enable the visibility of frame 2. Which looks like that. And now you see where I'm going with this. I'm just going to duplicate that frame again, turn frame 2 off, and make the visibility of frame 3 visible. Okay, now my call to action, I want that to stay up the entire time. So I'm just going to go back to frame 1 here, and I'm going to click the visibility of the call to action button on. Inside of that group here, you'll just see the type and a rounded rectangle, which makes up our button. And then if I kind of cycle through here in my timeline, you can see that it just remains on. So as I flip through this, look in my layers panel, you can see that the visibility icon of the call to action button just stays on. So I'm not turning that off. Now from here, all I have to do is hit the play button, and it goes berserk. Okay, so we definitely don't want that, and it's going berserk because we have it set to 0 seconds. So I'm going to stop that before I have a seizure, and I'm going to select all of these frames by holding down the Shift key. And with all of these frames selected, I can just click on the seconds button here, and it has some presets in here. I typically start with like 2.5 seconds, seems to work good. So in that case, I don't see that in the drop down. That's okay. I can just go to other and type in 2.5, say okay. Now if I wanted one frame to be longer than the other, I could just go in here and say, okay, I want this one to be 3 seconds instead of 2.5. So I generally will select all the frames, give it a baseline seconds count, and then I'll go in and individually change frames by themselves. Now I actually want that to be 2.5, so I'm going to go back to that, and then I'm going to hit the play button and just see how it looks from there. Okay, that looks good to me, so I'm going to stop it, and now I'm ready to export. So I'm going to go to the file menu, and I'm going to go to export. And I like to export via Save for Web, and I'll show you why. Because these animated GIFs can get pretty big in size, and you can see the size down here in the bottom left. Now this says JPEG, so you can't have an animated JPEG. So first of all, we need to change that. So in the top right of the Save for Web, you can just change this to GIF. You can only have an animated GIF. You can't have an animated JPEG. Okay, there are some options in terms of how you optimize the image. I'm going to start with the colors all the way up at 256. That's the highest it can go. And you can see our color table show all of our colors, because I want to actually see how big the file is. So if I go to the bottom left, I can see that this is only 62K. So this actually is not that big of a file. Okay, so I'll just leave it at that optimization setting. I can see the width and the height here. That looks fine, 728 by 90 in this case. And from there, I make sure that this blue line is around this preview window. So you can see this is the original and this is the optimized version. And the file size will get smaller if I make the colors less in the color table. So if I go down to colors 128 and then I zoom in on my size, you can see that it went down to 52K. Okay, but you can also see that the image starts to degrade. So in this case, I want to go back up to 256. And that's it. I'm going to go ahead and hit save. And I just saved it to my desktop. And you can see it here on my desktop. Now from here, I can just drag and drop it into a web browser. Notice that it saved just one GIF file. It didn't save a bunch of different frames. My PSD file is still intact. I can always go back and edit that if I want. And that's it. That's how you create frame by frame animations in Photoshop. If you liked it, hit like and subscribe. Until next time.